All right, what's up, me Duole team? Stuart Anderson here. Just a short introduction before we hear from professional cyclist Alex Wild. Super grateful for the time that Alex spent with us on the podcast, and grateful to Jason Lang, who made the connection, reached out to Alex, and specifically for Alex for agreeing to be on with us. Super cool to meet him, hear his story, how he trains, some insider secrets and things that he does to be so good, and obviously what is in store for 2023. So all of our gratitude to Alex, and big applause to him for this year. We hope he has the best year racing and pursuing all the things that he hopes to accomplish. So grateful for this team to watch him, and looking forward to Alex to seeing all the great things that he does. Kit pickup this week. If you're listening to this podcast before Thursday, we will be at Hangar 15 at 7 o'clock. Picking up all the kits for this new year. We will have a couple more opportunities to buy gear this year, maybe in the upcoming months and in summertime. So no worries there, but we will be up there picking up kits. If you cannot make it, please arrange with a teammate to pick up your gear for you. We'll have team socks and some old gear from last year, shirts, some hats, some sweatshirts for you to pick up some swag stuff. So looking forward to that. Big shout out to Jake Cook. We've got Team Camp coming up, which he is planning. Thankful for all the work that he does there to plan for us. That is April 13th, 14th, 15th down in St. George. All of the information about Team Camp can be found on the website, meduole.com. And that's it. So thanks for joining us for this episode. Again, big thanks to Alex, and hope you enjoy. All right, bye-bye. All right, welcome everybody. Episode 78, the Duole podcast. Grateful to have Jason Lang, co-host, coming to us from his log cabin. What's up, Jace?
My fake log cabin, yeah.
Whatever, dude. Looks good. And professional mountain biker, cyclist, Alex Wild. Welcome, Alex.
Thanks for having me.
Man, we're so grateful to have you. We are more and more gravitating towards interviewing only Duole team members. So this is a really fun treat for us to have you on to talk about your career and kind of your story, and have you share your advice with us. So we're super grateful to have you on, and look forward to whatever, all the questions the 6 pages of single space questions that Jason has prepared for you.
Good deep breath.
Dude, before we get started, though, we have to just memorialize 1 second, moment of silence for Matt Bollinger and Joe, G.I. Joe. Alex, we are in the middle of a 1 week, what do we call it, Jason?
Distance challenge.
Zwift distance challenge. And guys you would think that they are competing for a $20,000 prize purse. It is, so what? It's day 5. And Matt just rolled over 600 freaking miles on his trainer.
Yep.
He's got that flywheel going.
Oh my God. He's got a little salad spinner connected to his pedals, just cranking that thing out.
I guess if it's on Zwift, right? I guess they calibrate to power. But I always find that if you do like a trainer road workout or whatever, if you have it in the 10, it's like, oh yeah, you average 35 miles an hour for 4 hours. Okay, all right.
No, he is on Tempest Fugit, just
That's why he's probably avoiding Alpe d'Huez Zwift then, huh?
Yeah,
The distance
just-
challenge.
Yeah.
just sending
All flat all the time.
Oh man, it's
Whatever
brutal.
the flip it button is, as soon as he gets to the bottom. Nope.
But big kudos to those guys for putting their undercarriages through that experience. And then big love to Corby, who's forking out all the prizes for these guys from Cycling Upgrades. So pretty fun stuff. I guess it's fun to watch. I got my popcorn out. I believe that this will not end until Sunday night at literally 11:59. They will both be on. Just
on their trainers.
yes.
It's going to be like an 800+ mile week, I think, for these guys, all on the trainer.
Yes, dude, unreal.
That's impressive and scary in so many ways.
There's a cycle
And
team
dumb.
here. There's a cycle team here in Utah, and they literally named their team Killing Time Cycling. And I'm like, this is a perfect name, like Wasting Time Cycling Team. This is
Yep.
this is us.
That's what we do.
So
It's all
funny.
encompassing too. It's not even just on the bike. It's like,
I
oh, I
know.
gotta swap this chain ring. Who knows why, but
I
gotta tinker with something.
got to do it. Hey, so kit pickup for the team. We'll release this podcast before then, March 16th. That's Thursday night at 7 at Hangar 15. So we have all the new 2023 kits available. So come pick them up. And if I would just say one bit of information about that, if you cannot come, as much as I love you, find someone else to come and get your stuff. If you can't make it, figure a way to get it yourself. Okay. Was that nice enough or was that rude, Jace?
That was perfect.
Okay, good. Very good. All right. Introduce our guest, Jason.
All right. So we got Alex Wild here today. I think a lot of our listeners will know him. He's an accomplished pro mountain bike racer. And can we call you a pro gravel bike racer now that you've done the Lifetime Series, Alex?
I think I've swapped to just pro off-road racer. Like if there's two wheels in dirt, I'll consider racing it.
Nice. Cool.
Okay. I like it. You've heard him many times on the Trainer Road podcast. Alex has competed all over the US in national cups and championships as a professional mountain bike racer. He has competed in the Lifetime Grand Prix last year. He's even represented Team USA in world championships around the world multiple times. Alex is married and also maintains a full-time job at our beloved Specialized.
Yes.
As a senior supply manager.
Yes.
Does that cover it?
It makes me sound a lot cooler than I am. So yeah, I'll go with that for sure.
Alex, I was at Leadville last year. I was right behind you in the corral, right behind you, watching you fly away.
We have the truck at the beginning. We cheat.
That was
the neutral start of all neutral starts.
Neutral start on that flipping downhill. That was insanity. That was fun. Dude, well
5 miles an hour. This feels neutral.
Very cool. Hey, well, we've got questions for Alex, but before we get started, Alex, when you think back on your career, when you think back on how it all started, could you kind of share that from the beginning, like maybe your background, your history, how you got started?
So when I was in high school, the NICA League was just in its infancy. It was still, I think, NorCal and SoCal were the only high school leagues. I was fortunate enough that my brother rode and our school was part of the NorCal League. So after school, I would normally just hang out. My mom would work until like 4. So I would just hang out at school with my friends, and that scared her. Maybe thought I would do drugs or whatever kids do. So she's like, you got to choose a sport. And being the typical little brother, I was like, well, whatever my brother does. So I decided to choose cycling. And at first it was kind of just a way to like get my mom off my back for hanging out after school. I wouldn't mind riding bikes after school. That sounds fun. So did my first race, kind of, I'd say, dawdled through like the NorCal League and what became NICA. Had kind of a vague understanding, and I think I had to get 15th to qualify for nationals, and that seemed really fun in my senior year. So that became my goal. And my mom told me, like, I'm not going to drive to Colorado, because I think it was out in Granby that year, unless you qualify properly. Because I think as a junior, it was like loose or something like that. Like I didn't technically have to get top 15. Like I could have petitioned, but she's like, no, if you don't get top 15, we're not going to drive out there. So I think I got 15th at the last varsity race, which is exactly what I needed to get in. And then we did that. And I think till I was like 20 or 21 that I kind of started to figure out, like, I'm pretty decent at this, just riding. So I try to take it a bit more seriously. I always felt like I was a year or so too late for the cycle. So I would race Cat 1 17 to 18. That made sense to me because I was racing with everybody that I raced in the NorCal League with. And then I remember first year of what would be U23, I was like, okay, Cat 1 19 and 29, like that's the next graduation for me. And I showed up to the first race of the year, and all these kids that I was racing against were now racing in the pro field. And I was like, what the heck? Like, why? At the time, it was Will Curtis was like King B of the Nike League. And I remember being like, why is Will racing in the pro race? What's going on? And so I was like, oh, I'm supposed to be in U23. But I guess there's something with USA Cycling that you can do it from 17, 18. And then if you go straight into it, like you're in it. But since I had already gone 19 to 29, I had to like petition. So I was like, okay, I'll race all year and try to get this U23 thing. Because the only big race I knew of at the time was nationals. So I was like, okay, if I get it before nationals, I can race nationals with these guys. And so I ended up racing U23 nationals. And the next year I ended up picking up a coach and kind of trying to figure out this whole cycling thing on my own. And I think it was just every year I learned a little more. I think I learned about World Cups that year. I think Howie, that's when he won his junior World Cup in Mount St. Anne and all that. And I was like, oh, cool, World Cup. Like, this is like a global sport now. Like, this is cool. And then, yeah, I think I was really starting to get the swing of things by the end of my U23 years in terms of like, okay, this is how we train. These are the big races. This is how like these UCI points fit into like the whole kind of thing. And then I got a back injury. So essentially it was really weird. I could train just fine. I could ride just fine, but the added pressure of racing or whatever it did to my position or how I rode a bike, I would get pain in my lower right back every time I raced. So it was super frustrating for me because it was kind of like, okay, we're going well, but I can't find out if this back injury is still here until I race. And so had that and took a long time to really figure it out. I have a herniated L5S1, which we think is the core of the issue, but it is pretty well managed as long as I stay in the gym and I'd recommend this to anybody. It really helps. The foundation routine. I don't know if y'all have heard of it on YouTube from Eric Goodman. Essentially what he does is like if you ask a baby to pick up a piece of paper or you ask an adult, the baby will squat down, pick up the piece of paper, whereas the adult will just flex at their back. And his whole idea is that it's his routine will reteach you to bend at your hips and not your back. And so doing that in combination with, I think my biggest movement is a deadlift. Like as long as I keep deadlift in my gym routine, like at least once every couple of weeks, that keeps it strong enough that I don't have that issue anymore. And then, so that kind of realizing that and fixing that coincided with me starting at Specialized. That injury I thought was, I'll put career in air quotes because at that point I don't really feel like I had done much, but I thought it was career ending. I thought I wasn't really like I couldn't do anything with this. So I had reached out and got a job starting at Specialized. I started as just an equipment coordinator, which is I don't know if we're allowed to swear on this podcast, but is a glorified equipment bitch. So anything anybody else didn't want to do was my job, which, as funny as it is a great job because you really get to learn the business. So it's a unique position where you get to work almost anywhere. You could work with marketing, you could work with product, you could work with the developers. Like you can, anywhere there's gaps, you can fill them. So it's a bit of a rotation program as well as like you have these core responsibilities you need to do, which really got me one in the door, but really understanding at that age what drives me at a professional level within the workplace. And I found that my passion for product combined with like a desire for puzzles and spreadsheets, which is kind of how I landed in planning, is really the sweet spot. So I really enjoy it in terms of there is a piece of understanding spec and quantity and different bikes within the family and all that come into play, where at the same time it's like you have these vendor capacities and you have size splits and color splits and the needs here and like ocean freight versus air freight and all these different pieces to deliver product where it needs to be at the right time. So those kind of coincided. And it's kind of funny in my mind that when my professional career started, my cycling career really started. I'd say my cycling career really started in 2016. I got a handle on that back injury. For the whole year, I had a consistent year, and I got 6th place at national championships that year in the elite field as my first year elite, which was pretty exciting for me in terms of just validation. Like, I remember racing against Todd Wells, and I was in front of him until I dropped a chain. I think I was in 4th place for most of the race, and it was just this kind of like aha moment of sorts, because Todd was like the guy when I was getting into cycling. I mean, he's still the guy. I think he's super rad and someone I try to emulate on a personal level. Just always had time for people and always was kind and giving to the sport. And I think, yeah, that 2016 year was really when it's like, okay, like maybe I can be decent at this. Maybe this is something that I can still pursue alongside a job. And I remember qualifying for my first World Cup while at Specialized, and it was really cool. Sam Benedict, shout out to him, who's our mountain marketing manager. Like, I had known him from the group ride, but I didn't know he knew who I was. Had read my Instagram post of like, I finally got enough UCI points to race a World Cup, and he actually like paid for the whole trip to Canada for me. Just came over and was like, "This is so rad. We're super psyched for you," and it was just like, "We want to take care of you." And I think that just built on strength. 2017 was my first Pan American Championships. 2018 was my first Marathon World Championships. In 2019, I competed both in cross country and Marathon Worlds. And I think each year it just kept building from there. And I have this strong belief. Obviously, we have power meters now, so it's kind of easy to look at those and understand where you lie in the hierarchy. But I have this strong belief that I still don't put out my best performance on race day, that I have more potential in the tank, and that's kind of become my drive. And it's not about results. It's not about a rainbow jersey. It's not about a national championship. It's, I want to go to every race and feel that I race to the fullest of my potential. I don't think I can retire until I do that, in terms of like even those big results that I've had. You know, I've gotten multiple top 5 at national championships. I've won Tahoe Trail the last 3 years. I have some Palmares, but I just don't feel like they reflect what I can do. And I want to be able to do that. So yeah, I think that's kind of the big motivation moving forward. And this year for me, it'll be split between UCI marathon racing and the Lifetime Grand Prix. As I'm sure y'all and many of the listeners know, I wasn't chosen for the Lifetime Grand Prix. I have talked to them, and if anybody can't get a visa or drops out before the start, I'm in. So I have pretty high hopes that'll happen, just because 35 people getting their crap together and getting ready for 6 races seems unlikely to me. But also at the same time, I'm fortunate enough to work in the industry, and I'm already in all 6 races. So anything with a lottery that could have stopped me, I'll be there anyway. Cool. And then also, I'm not sure how much mountain your team does or mountain following, but we have marathon world championships in snowshoe next year on home soil. So I'm trying to rack up some points and do a Europe trip, and I'll hit the 2 World Cups this year with Discovery owning them. They added a marathon race to both Nova Mesto and Snowshoe this year. So I'll be at those for the Marathon World Cups, get some points and do Scotland, and then hopefully a medal on home soil in 24 is the goal.
Dude, nice. What a background, Alex. Incredible. I don't know if you guys saw when you were talking about your capabilities, right? I don't know if you guys saw what Tiger Woods said this week. I'm Alex, I'm going to now compare you to Tiger Woods. You ready? T Woods, when he was asked the same question, said of all the events and everything that he's ever won, he believes he's only played to his fullest potential in two like whatever rounds, championships. Yep. So, and you're talking about like the greatest golfer of all time being willing to say, those 2 events I literally played perfect to my potential. So it's cool to hear you say that, Alex. It's more about being your very best. Like, I think that's an awesome example, especially from a professional athlete. So dude, big kudos. That's awesome.
we get so caught up in results, and don't get me wrong, I have as well. I actually, full transparency, just hired a sports psychologist, which I'm really excited to work with because I think I struggle with execution here. But just focusing on process oriented goals, I think, can be so powerful in terms of like, what can you control on race day? Like, okay, I'm going to clip in quickly off the start. I'm going to get from here to that corner as fast as I can, and then see what position that puts me in. And then just executing a race and letting the result come to you can be so freeing from like an anxiety point of view, and super powerful in terms of like how you approach a race.
Very cool.
I was just going to ask you, I'm glad you said that, because I had wondered where, because you've raced kind of at the highest level for so long, where you were going to look for more. If you don't think you've reached that full potential, you can always train more hours, or mix it up a little bit in the gym or whatever. But adding a sports psychologist for the mental side, I think, is going to be super helpful. That'll be great to see how that works out for you.
Yeah, I think I've kind of taken I'm an analytical guy. I've taken a shotgun approach of sorts. I'll take anything I can get after here. So I did a sodium test at the beginning of the year, which actually we feel can be a big get for me. I don't know. People are familiar with the space will understand this, but I sweat 2.2 grams of sodium per liter of sweat. To put it in perspective, the normal range they give you stops at 2.
Dude.
Wow.
So
congratulations.
the guy who tested me was like, I actually don't know how you finish Leadville without a sodium plan. Wow. So we're thinking that can be a big get in long-term stuff, and possibly the reason, again, I don't know how closely people follow my career, but I've gone to the Leadville stage race many times before Leadville, crushed that.
Yeah.
Set KOMs on Columbine. Literally the only person to climb Columbine faster than me is Keegan in the world. So if I can do that over 3 days, why can't I put it together? And we actually think like my body has enough on board to get me through a few hours, but then at hour 3 or 4 without that sodium plan, my body just starts being like, bro, can I have some French fries?
What's the plan? Are you going to put like a salt lick on your glove, or what? How can you get that much?
It's going to like encrust it on my like a salt mustache.
It's an old
mustache
and an old bib. You'll just squeeze the.
I've been messing around a lot with this. So luckily for me, Precision Hydration has come on board with the feed, and they sell little effervescent tablets, and their 1500 is 750 milligrams each. So I've tried putting that in the Never Second C90 mix, and that will bring it up to about 1 gram per each bottle.
Wow.
So I can even up it more than that. The effervescent tablets, they have a 250, a 500, and 750. So you can kind of play around with how much you want to put in there. And then I think preload solutions like what Scratch offers are going to be super important in the heat, because I get the fun of sweating a lot per liter, but then also having a ridiculous high sweat volume in general in the heat. So there are days I am sure that I will go through about 3 grams of sodium per hour.
Oh my goodness.
So put that in perspective, for most people within the bell curve, that would probably be 6 hours of work. We'll sweat in an hour at Leadville what most people do in 6.
Oh my gosh.
So just having a pointed plan, I think, is the best way to get after that for me.
Well, when you pass me coming down Columbine this year, I can give you anything you need, whatever you want.
High five.
You were there in 2022?
Yeah, I was there. I was there last year. I'll be there this year too.
Yeah. That was probably one of my most fun descents. We were following I can't believe Braden Lang, and he's like an ex-moto guy and a ridiculous descender, and he was just probably the most fun part of Leadville for me. It was just us ripping down that fire road.
And that was terrifying when you guys were passing us coming back.
I'm curious, Alex, with all that sweat, do you weigh yourself before and after? Like, what is that? Do you lose 10 pounds in a ride?
think it's ever been that much because I definitely am good on hydration. I think it's the sodium content that has been the biggest issue. I have played around with a NIX sensor, NIX. Um, it's essentially, I don't know if you've used a Gatorade patch, but it is essentially a smart Gatorade patch with no limit. Like the Gatorade patch you have to pull off before you overflow the valve, whereas a NIX will track actually for the entire ride your sweat rate. A little hit or miss for me. I think some days it's accurate, and then some days I feel like it's hotter and I'm working harder, and it's like you're only sweating 500 mils per hour. And at my gut, I don't trust that, but I don't know if there is something else that would vary my sweat rate. I don't know the field enough to, I guess, fully debunk it. So I've been messing around with that as far as trying to understand sweat rate more in different climates. Ideally, if I can get it to a point that I trust, I'd love. So if I might go to Arizona next weekend for Cactus Cup. If I go there and the environment's different, I stick that on the first day and be like, okay, in this environment, I'm sweating about 600 mils per hour. And then from there, I can kind of break it down like, okay, I need about 1200 milligrams of sodium per hour at that rate then, and see how I can get that for the race. So volume hasn't been so much of an issue. I think it's just the sodium content, especially in the past. I used to do Morton, which is only 500 milligrams per about 750 mils. And then I used to use way back before I knew what Never Second was, SIS beta fuel gels, which actually have no sodium. So I think as far as carbs and fluid, I was always good. I think it's a sodium piece in terms of putting back the sodium I'm losing.
There's some guys on our team that need to take that sodium test. I recommend it. When you ride with them, you're like, I'm like, what are you doing? How do you not recognize what your jersey looks like right now? This is not normal. You do not look like a normal sweating person.
Every time I wear a black jersey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun. That's good.
You take it off and it still looks like you're wearing it. Take a sweat test.
Cool. Let's do some rapid fire questions, shall we?
Let's do it.
As long as it's not about real sports. I only got the Tiger Woods reference because I'm watching that docu-series now.
We'll just break it up with a little bit of rapid fire for some fun. I got to throw some specialized questions in here too, because we're huge fans of Specialized on our team. If you ever look at photos on Instagram that Stu posts and you look at the bikes everybody's on, it's basically SL7s across the board. It's just, we love our Specialized. And then I think, on gravel, we love our Crux, and on the mountain, we love our Epics. So
good to hear. Me too.
So, can you give us any SL8 details? Just kidding. I know you can't. You're sworn to secrecy.
SL8.
Yeah. What's that, right? So rapid fire for you, SL7 or Athos on the road? Sorry, did I lose you?
SL7.
Nice.
SL7.
Crux or Diverge for the gravel?
I tried the new STR, but I would probably choose the Crux.
Because you're kind of a weight weenie, right?
It depends on the course, right? Like something like Tusher, I would definitely use a Crux. It's so much climbing. But I've considered getting an STR for Unbound because there's not really much climbing, and over the long day, having comfort might help.
Epic or Epic Evo for ripping the dirt?
Epic Evo.
Nice. I've seen some deep internet leak photos of the new Epic coming out, and it looks pretty rad with like kind of a Diverge Epic shock. Looks pretty wild.
I'll have to wait and see.
Lace up or boa on your shoes?
Oh, Um, Something
Nice.
about being able to reach down and adjust it in long races. I
Yeah.
like the lace up look, and I think an all white lace up shoe with light white laces right out of the box, super clean, but not practical.
Skin suit or bibs in a jersey?
Race day skin suit with pockets though. Got to have room for snacks.
For sure. Real food or gels and bottle?
Gels and bottle. I never eat real food on the bike.
Nice. What's the hardest race in the Lifetime series?
Race. Hardest race for me this year was Tusher. Unbound, they're kind of hard in different ways. Like Unbound isn't hard because no one dares go too hard for too long because you also have to do it for 10 hours. I feel like it's like different workouts, right? Like Unbound is kind of like high-end zone 2 until you die. And then Tusher is just a bunch of FTP tests at altitude. And then Leadville is pretty much the same. I think Leadville or Tusher, I'd say, are the hardest. Just the altitude piece and riding that fine line is rough.
Sarlacc pit. Fun.
Will somebody dethrone Keegan this year in Lifetime?
Absolutely.
Nice. Favorite place you've ridden, dirt or road?
Place I've ridden, dirt or road. Favorite place I've ridden, dirt, Italy. Favorite place I've ridden, road, Maui.
Ooh. Maui. Nice. You were just there.
I was in frickin' whatever.
You were in Oahu.
Oahu.
Yeah.
I should have gone to Maui.
Nasty stomach bug, right?
Yeah.
You recovered from that stomach issue?
We did some intervals yesterday and they felt fine, but I don't think they were anything crazy anyway. They were like 5 1 minutes on, 1 minute off, and 2 sets of that. And it was, I don't know, wasn't anything that I looked at and I was like, you want me to do what?
Dude, Maui's the best.
Stu loves
I don't know.
the Maui loop.
Yeah, I feel like that East Maui loop for road, I don't know anywhere else I've gone through so many different microclimates. Like you start out, it's like the traditional tropical, and then near Hana, you get like it's almost like a British feel with the stone walls and the ocean there. And then you get that sick little gravel connector. And then you come out the other side and it's like the volcano pits. And it's just, I don't know. You feel like you're going through like all these different places. Like you're on Zwift and somehow you've like transported into a completely different place, you know? So I think for me is just top 5 all-time rides was going around the East Maui Loop. And I think I had my crux out there and I just had like a wider, like I think it was a 32 or 34 like road tire with a little bit of knob on the side. And I don't know, just you never get bored on Maui. And I think it's perfect for those week-long training camps because you can almost ride every road on Maui and then you're like, sick, now I'm ready to go home.
Yeah.
Ride Haleakala. Yeah, I think very small spot, but almost everywhere you go is gorgeous.
That's cool. Nice.
All right, last one. Favorite post-ride food?
Ooh, favorite post-ride food. Since I just came from Hawaii, I'll have to go plate lunch. We stopped at Ted's plate lunch a couple times and rice with some barbecue ribs. Ooh. The look on the lady's face when I asked for all rice and then extra rice was also quite hilarious.
You held up your salty jersey.
Me.
I've earned this. That's fun.
Yeah, we have a Hawaiian place here in Utah, a chain called Mobetta's that I just love after a hard ride.
Is that a plate lunch, like a Hawaiian barbecue?
Yeah,
nice.
Mobetta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
Chipotle
fantastic.
burrito never goes wrong.
Or pizza. I can always do pizza.
Yeah, that's a good one. We just had pizza last night.
All right, let's get into some racing, riding, and training. What do you think, Stu?
Yeah, let's do it.
So let's talk about the, I guess, Lifetime series last year. Sea Otter was awesome for you, right?
Yep.
Third place finish. I had heard you, I don't know if I read it or heard you on an interview, kind of talk about what happened there when you shattered the field and bridged up to the lead group. Can you maybe recap that a little bit?
Yeah. So I think every mountain biker in the field saw that start and was like, oh, sick. We want to be on the front row. So I remember me, Keegan, and Russell kind of ending warm up a little early, and we all lined up first, just knowing that it was probably more important to be there than it was to get an extra 5 minutes of spinning around. So gun went off. We did the start. I think I went into the dirt 7th, which actually I was doing a mental check of mountain bikers. And if it was all mountain bikers in front of me, I was fine because it went into that single track and then into the canyon. And it was not technical, but technical enough that if it was roadies or gravel riders, I'm sure we would pull a little bit of a gap that I didn't want to bridge. And so the 7 of us kind of just did the first loop together. Wasn't anything crazy. Just, I think we got a gap on that little canyon section, and then everybody was willing to work because it guaranteed a top 7. And so came around to the track again, got our feeds, and then that same bottleneck happens. You go up the track and then you go into the single track. I got a bit boxed out from one of the riders and went in 5th place. And then, so the canyon, you go through this little descent kind of undulating, and then you come to the bottom. And then from there, it's like maybe 3 to 5 minutes of mostly climbing. And Keegan just pushed the pace there a little bit, and 2 of the riders couldn't match it. So it was him and Russell going up the road. And for me, it was kind of like, okay, well, here we go. It's now or never. So it took me a little while to get around the other 2 riders, and then just stepped on the gas as hard as I could. I was the only one who was able to bridge up to those 3. And then from there, I feel like mentally we all kind of knew it was going to come down to that last climb. I cramped a little bit at the bottom of it, and I thought the group behind us was closer than they were. In hindsight, I probably could have risked it for full lockup and probably still limped to the finish for 3rd. But in my mind, I was like, okay, let's consolidate 3rd and, get some good points in the series and go from there. So kind of just be there for that last dig where everybody tries to sprint up the last climb and see who survives. But I mean, overall, it was a good race. I think maybe I wouldn't have cramped if I had gone higher up into that single track the second time around, but live and learn.
And maybe you won't now that you've got your salt plan on board for this year, right? When you do a bridge effort like that, I mean, is it like a 400-watt effort? Like, what kind of effort are we talking about here?
I think that one like 440, 450 for 4 or 5 minutes with some spikes. Because I don't know if you've done the Sea Otter course, but like, so you do that like dip, and then there's kind of a climb, a little bit of undulation, and then gradual climb. And then there's like a huge kicker called Hurl Hill. It's like a minute or so long to get back up to the fire road. So I think it was like 460 normalized, but like 440 raw, just because that last minute was probably close to 500 watts. And I didn't close it all the way down. So I also had to give a little bit of gas on that fire road just to catch them at the end.
And then when you get on, it's not like they're like, hey, let's ease up for Alex. He just put in a big dig.
That's funny.
Keegan and Finsty aren't that kind.
That's funny.
When you do that in those pro races, do they realize the effort you put in and they kind of turn the screws a little bit?
So you go along that fire road for a little bit, then you go into a single track descent. So I don't know if smart enough was the word, but I tried to reel them in as close to that single track as possible once I realized I was going to do it. Because then I hop on the back at a point that they couldn't push me to the front and they couldn't really push the pace. Like, not that I can rest when bridging up, but once I realized, like, the draft goes back a bit of a ways. Once I kind of realized I was in it and I was coming back, then I kind of soft pedal a little bit and try to give myself just a bit of recovery before that descent, knowing that if they decide to really push it and take some risks on the descent, I'm not cross-eyed. So you kind of take that into consideration. But I mean, I don't think they expected me to come back. I remember Egan was on a podcast with Lesby, their podcast, and he was like, yeah, I was going full chap. I didn't expect Alex to bridge that.
Nice.
So, always a good sign. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely no gifts.
I believe that. And that was probably a great race to kind of start the series with, because you felt like I belong in the front group, I'm assuming, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I think I always have a little bit of imposter syndrome. Just I don't race full time, and literally everybody I race with does.
Dang,
So
that's cool.
I think it's just kind of like, I'm here, and yeah, I think it's definitely more common in the women's pro field, unfortunately, but in the men's, like, the top 10 are getting paid to ride their bike full time. So I think just showing them I can do it, and more showing myself that I can do it, was a good setup for the year. And I think we're ready to do some big things until kind of overtrained a bit and flatted at Unbound. So I think a little bit of bad luck and a little bit of overtraining kind of ruined it. But again, I think being process oriented, I learned from that, and we'll take that moving forward.
Dang, Alex, that is a cool. I mean, that is, for me personally, I like the to be motivated by that is rad. To say, I don't know if you sit there and think to yourself like, well, if I coulda, woulda, shoulda, not. I mean, I think it's cool to think to yourself the way that you are thinking. I think that's motivational. For me, it would be, at least. I think that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I don't regret anything in terms of, I think it was funny when I was younger, the goal is always to be a full-time cyclist. That sounds super rad. From the outside, you're like, oh, I get to travel the world, I get to race my bike. Someone's going to pay me to race my bike. Okay, cool. And then you get older and you realize what sacrifices have to be made to race your bike full time. Like, it's not this money pit of winning golf tournaments at $2 million at a tournament. Like, sacrifices have to be made to make that happen. And I recognize that. And I think as soon as I was at the point that I could probably pull it together and race full time, I was also at the point, age wise and mentality, that I was like, maybe I don't want to do that. Like, I found a good spot where I can do both, where I can also plan for the future financially and set up a 401k and have, job experience, so that if I need to get another job, I don't have that gap in my resume, which may all sound very safe and boring, but I think for me, I don't know if I could do cycling full time mentally either. Like, riding for 4 hours, 5 hours is great, but then when I get back, I couldn't just sit on the couch and think about bikes. Like, I mean, I do, but I feel like having work gives me something to engage with my brain and feel like I'm contributing and learning something, and kind of have a community outside of racing with my coworkers. So I think, I don't know, maybe I would do other things. Maybe I'd, start a business or figure out something. Like, I definitely get down like niche holes. I think I would want to teach myself how to 3D print, and I would probably something similar to Problem Solvers I could see myself doing, like set up just like a account and like, oh, the Roval mount for the Alpinist sucks, but what if I 3D printed this way and did this or whatever? Like, and it'd be very niche, but I think I would really enjoy doing something like that on the side. But I just need something to engage with. I don't think I could just smash pedals all day.
Yeah. Nice.
That's awesome. So great highlight to start the year. You said that you had some bad luck at Unbound, flatted. Did you overall feel pretty good about that race?
I think after the flat, I kind of just never gave up, which I think I was super proud of in terms of it's a long day to ride by yourself.
Dude.
Um, and then I think from a power perspective, I think it was like 270 or 280 normalized for the 10 hours. So I think it showed myself that I had the power to be at the front. I just wasn't. So I think it was just a huge race to be in the draft. At least when I flatted, I think I flatted 30 or 40 miles in. So it wasn't during like the selection or the last 50 miles where everybody's kind of on their own anyway. So I missed the train, and it's 45 minutes sounds like a lot, but I feel like when you're riding solo against a 35 person peloton, I was pretty happy to keep it within an hour, honestly. So yeah, I think I could get over that one mentally just because I was proud of the way I handled it, and I was like, that power was good. So execution was good. Um yeah, I think I had good form going through Unbound, and then we went to altitude for Tusher. My wife and I rent a place in Tahoe for a month each year. She's a ultra runner, so she's better than me in many ways. But we go to Tahoe, and I think I just overcooked it in Tahoe and just came into Tusher super cooked. And then that was kind of the story of the rest of my year, is trying to band-aid fix this overtraining and get some form out of it. And then mentally, I kind of just wasn't there at the end for September, October. And I ended up taking 5 weeks off the bike and just fully resetting, which is 3 weeks longer than I've ever taken before. So it's probably the longest I've spent off the bike before I knew what bikes were. So that was hard at the time, but I think super useful long term.
Was there, so Tusher's like a really familiar course for us, me Duole team, just because it's kind of in our backyard and a bunch of us did it last year. We'll do it this year. Did you feel right at the start that you were kind of overtrained, or was there a point in the race, like going up the Col, where you're like, I'm done. I exploded.
I think you get a bit of denial, right? Like you're like, oh, race legs or race nerves or whatever. You try to just kind of explain it away. You're there. We started pretty hot on the first climb over to the top. And I think I made the mistake of trying to stick with it for too long. Just thinking like, oh, my legs will come around. This will be like more of an opener. Sometimes you feel like that first effort just bites a little more. And kind of settled in, and then found a group with Rob Britton, and he was just setting a good tempo that it was hurting, but I could hold it. We did that over the top. I believe Lesby was with us and set a good pace down the descent. And then I don't even exactly know how it happened. Some people stopped at the feed zone and we didn't, or whatever, but essentially it was Keegan and then our group for second along the road. So I was like, well, today can't be going so bad. Like, I'm in the group for second. Like, that's great. And then you come to the tar pit. Is that what it is?
Sarlacc pit.
Yeah. And I think there is when I really noticed it, because you need just a little extra, like it's not really smooth, right? So it's kind of like a lot of low cadence, kind of just digging through it.
Yeah.
And I just, like, obviously you're not riding on smooth surface, but I couldn't get in a rhythm. Like I was hopping from the left to the right. I was trying to find a good gear. Like just everything just felt off. And I think it was at that point I just kind of started to crater. The group was going well, and I kind of I had a feeling I was going that way, so I went into it second, just thinking I could lag climb, because I'm, as you are familiar with it, you kind of have that false climb and then the U-turn, and then from there you could probably almost draft your way to the road, and then the road is very draftable. So I was like, maybe if I can just get to the bottom of the Col and then kind of let everybody do their thing. But I couldn't even fake it up that little false flat, and I think I went from the second group to like 30 something by the end. So it was just, and at that point it was, I think I was doing like 200 to 220 fully pinned.
That sounds about like me. It was like you start getting, it's so hot in that Sarlacc pit and sandy, and like you said, you just you can't find a good rhythm, and then you come out and you're just kind of beat, and you've got that cold that is just relentless and totally exposed and at altitude, and it's like 200 watts feels like as much as you can do sometimes.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's a rough course to blow up on, because you have all those braking bumps going uphill. Like it's beating you up mentally and physically. So once your legs are gone, it's like, why am I even here?
And I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but you get to the top of the col and you're like, yes, I did it. There's no more climbing, but you just keep climbing. Like it's just gradual.
Yeah. No,
it just keeps going.
Just a rough day. I think for me, put a lot into it. Like those 3 weeks leading up to it was really hard. And I kind of just was trusting the process, and literally coming back from every ride covered in salt, like destroyed. Like there was workouts we were doing. So we were at 6,000 to 7,000 feet, and then with climbs above that. And essentially the workout was just make it say 300 all day for 3 or 4 hours.
Oof.
And it's like, I could do it, but then by the end of it, like I can't do 200 at the race. So yeah, we definitely messed that one up a little bit, but oh well. Probably my own fault as well, because if things are on the training plan, they get done.
Nice. Anything you want to add here, Stu?
No, it's just so fun that we're like kind of in the same events. Like it's like the coolest part about the lifetime thing is just fun. I mean, it is for us. I don't know if it's fun for Alex, but it's so fun to show up to 3. I mean, I did 3 of those events, and it's so fun to be there with them. It's just cool to feel that excitement. As awful as Beaver, Utah is, like it was cool to be there together, like at our little race.
Yeah.
Like that was awesome. Sorry, Beaver,
It's good
Utah.
for us too, from like the professional perspective. Even if you're not in the Grand Prix, those 6 races will have the best racers in the US. So I think when you're choosing races, obviously we choose ones that we enjoy as well. But I think knowing you have 6 showdowns with the top 30 riders in the US, for us is exciting to get everyone together. And you can kind of guess going into it, but when you have a big series like that, you're like, okay, like everyone's going to be at these races.
That's
So
cool.
Like we split at other races, right? Like some people are doing BWR Arizona this weekend, and then the mountain bikers probably aren't. And then some people are doing Cactus Cup next weekend. But once the Lifetime Series kicks in, I think that's part of the reason I signed up, regardless of being in the series, is just 6 times that I get to see what I'm capable of against the best racers is an exciting prospect for anybody.
Dude, you are the best racer. That is you. You're not racing with them.
That's right.
You never asked me who was going to dethrone Keegan.
We knew. I could see it in your eyes.
You were so quick with the absolutely that
yes, that was it was awesome. I'm like, well, who is he thinking of? He's not thinking of anyone else.
It was like going back to that what is it called? Full Swing, the golf docu-series.
Yeah.
They asked so many of those guys, like, do you think you can win this weekend?
Like, what a dumb question.
Why the fuck would they show up if they didn't? Like, none of them need the money. You show them on their private jet with their like 10,000 square foot pool. Bro, they came because they think they can beat everybody else. They want to show you.
I'd love to take 6th.
I really think with a good showing, I can probably hit par and get 10. I'll be happy. Like,
you play to win the game, right?
I don't know if they just say it to like get them to say it, right? Like to get the sound bite or whatever, but it's like you are talking to like alpha competitors, the entire field.
For real.
And you're like, do you want to win? I'm good.
Yeah.
So
and
like,
I think one of the things that
Go
ahead, Alex.
No, you're good.
I was just going to say that's one of the things that I love most about bike racing in general is that it's not your day every race, right? Like you never know. Everybody's there to show up to win, but you don't know how anybody's feeling. You don't know what they're dealing with. Like it could be your day any day.
Yep. And that was actually part of my feedback for the Lifetime Grand Prix docu-series. Is nothing against the people they chose, but I feel like they're all Instagram personalities and they all have that platform to tell those
For
stories.
sure.
And they've already told those stories. Again, no offense, I think they're good stories, but there are 35 athletes who all come from different areas, get here different ways, approach cycling as a different thing, like you get the Sophia who's like, I'm gonna fucking step on their throats. And then you get, different approaches to it. And like, I don't know, I feel, yeah, you have to tell the story of the people who are doing well, but I'd love to hear the 18-year-old racing this for their first time, what cycling is to them.
That's
Like,
cool.
are they here because they're good at bikes? Are they here because they love bikes? Are they here because both their parents were cyclists? Like, what drives you to want to race a bike quickly? It's your background.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like it's very common now. I think F1 did it with Drive to Survive, and everybody's kind of like, oh, like if we tell the story of the personalities behind the racers, people will follow whatever sport for the personality. And I think we do a bad job of that. Like I feel like they should have chosen people with 5 followers, and it doesn't matter what their followers are. Like, do they have a cool story?
That's cool.
I
That's good insight.
don't know. I poke around podcasts. Like when I first announced the list, I actually tried to find as many podcasts with some of the different riders as possible because I was just curious. Why is this ex-pro roadie here? And
Right.
why, like not in terms of like qualifications, but why are they doing this series now?
Yeah.
Do they need a paycheck and they're going for the 25K? Do they, road was what they were good at and what would pay them to do their job, and this was actually they loved mountain biking the whole time? Like,
Hmm.
I don't know. I've just think heard the mainstream stories before. I'd love to hear more about the lesser known riders.
If you grow a big
Yeah.
if you grow a big mustache, maybe that's the key. You can get like
Yeah, it's nothing against guys like Payson either. Like he built that from the ground up. Like as far as like entrepreneurs go, like kudos to you. But I've heard his story. I'm one of probably 40, 50,000 people that follow him. So it's like, it's great, but I would rather hear someone else's story because I've heard his and I see his. So it's like, I think I would have loved to hear his story if I didn't know it. But I think that there's a fine line, like choose 5 athletes maybe that we know about and will do well, and choose 5 athletes that are all underdogs or all unique stories in some way or another. I don't know.
it's a cool idea. I would watch it. I mean, there are dudes that you saw at Crusher where you're like, dude, what are you doing here? It would be an amazing, it would be cool. It would be interesting to watch it, to listen to that. So
I know
I think
I'm pretty
cycling
pumped. We've got Nathan Spratt and Zach Colton, a couple local guys that we ride around with here that are in the series that I'm really excited to see kind of their story unfold this year.
Yeah, I'm excited to watch Zach. I feel like I haven't raced him for years now. I don't know if he took a bit of a sabbatical or COVID and all that or whatever, but I remember him and Standish used to ride together all the time. And then I think Zach stopped racing for a little bit because they were on the same team. I want to say it was 2018 on that. It was the green kit. It was
Yeah.
competitive cyclist. It was something like that. That was a sponsor. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember. He did have some sort of illness or injury that made him take like a year off.
Okay.
So this will be fun.
Yeah, no, part of what I was like, regardless of whether I'm in the series, I think I'm always a fan of the sport across the whole thing. Like, honestly, so excited for this weekend because Strade Bianche is my favorite race to watch.
nice.
So, but I watch it all. Like, I watch XC World Cups. The American dilemma of having to have Peacock, GCN, and Flow Bikes to make sure you can actually watch all the bike races. But
so dumb.
football's worse though. My mother-in-law was trying to watch the Super Bowl, and I consider myself pretty decent with technology. I could not find out what subscription I needed to watch the Super Bowl. I was just beating my head against the wall. It's like, I thought cycling was bad. Like there's like the NFL app, but that doesn't have playoff games. And then there's like this other one that was like kind of like TV, Fubo or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was like $80 a month. And then there was this other one that claimed to have it. It was like, my God, help me.
Hey, I did have a question, and Jace put this on a little Google Doc, which I think would be interesting to hear. Um, what did you learn from, you said your Tahoe thing? What will you do different? Was that just a matter of the salt overwork? I mean, how is that different this year?
I think the salt will help consistency, but I think it would still have been too much. I think we did 3,300 TSS in 3 weeks at altitude, assuming an FTP of 360. So probably just too much in general. I have switched coaches this year, so I think it'll be a little different from that perspective. Like I said, I think we kind of did a full overhaul of the village over here. New coach, which in turn meant new strength coach because my coach used to do both, sports psychologist. So kind of just built out the team for that goal of 24 worlds medal. And so that's kind of what we're charging towards. And I think, yeah, I've also, the guy I did the sweat test with, Dave Leota over here, also has the ability to do like metabolic testing and stuff like that. So we're going to try to get in there and do that and trying to understand. He can simulate altitude and kind of like we can educated guess what the limiter is, like essentially the muscles in the legs or the lungs when we get to altitude. So we can kind of address that at altitude. Yeah, I think
Nice.
few different approaches to it, but I think probably the first is a more metered approach once we get to altitude, which the new coach will take care of.
Nice. Cool. All right, Jace.
So I guess I kind of want to know what you're most excited for this year moving forward. We've kind of rehashed a little bit of last year, and you're on a whole new trajectory this year. I think you did like you just said, you've kind of redone everything and gotten a new sports psychologist and coach. And what are you excited for this year? What are you going to rip up?
Say probably the most out there goal and what I'm most excited for is Worlds Leadville doubleheader. So Marathon Worlds, since everything's in Glasgow this year, is the weekend before Leadville. So we get the fun logistic challenge of being in Colorado, flying to Scotland for as few days as possible while still overcoming jet lag and seeing the course and trying to get a result there, and then flying back immediately back to Colorado to try to get a result at Leadville. So the ultimate outcome obviously is a rainbow jersey and then winning Leadville in the rainbow jersey. Dang. But that'll be kind of like our biggest peak/challenge. I need to put together a schedule and post it. I was still finalizing it, but roughly I'll start at Cactus Cup next weekend and then won't race again until Sea Otter. After Sea Otter, it'll be 5 weekends in a row. It'll be Sea Otter, Whiskey 50. I'll fly out to Europe and do a race in Italy, do the World Cup in Novo Mesto, and then do a stage race in Belgium. Fly back. I have 1 weekend off and then Unbound. And then after Unbound will be a little bit of a break all the way through Tusher. So I'll probably take a week easier off after Unbound to recover, go up to Tahoe, and then we'll be there until Tusher. I'll do Downeyville Classic, which is also very close to Tahoe. And then that one, I think there's still the Leadville Worlds double. And then I come back from that, and then Schwamigan, Marathon National Championships, and then the double header. Well, actually, I might do Gravel Worlds in Italy because my mom lives in Europe and she's renting a place in Italy during that time. So I was like, well, I can visit my mom and race Gravel Worlds at the same time. So we'll see about that. And then the doubleheader in Bentonville to finish it off. I signed up for the mountain bike the weekend before, and then the Big Sugar gravel the weekend of the 22nd.
Wow. Seems pretty low key.
Yeah, pretty
low
key here. Just a couple of races on the calendar.
Yeah, there's a few in there that I'm not fully committed to. Like if I get to the end of the year and I'm pretty burnt out. I might not do the Bentonville mountain bike, might just go in for the gravel. National championships would be great, but I don't want to show up if I can't win. So we'll kind of evaluate those as we go. I think the hardest block is going to be that Sea Otter through Belgium and then getting back and recovering in time for Unbound. And then I think once we get through that, there's never anything with that much travel and logistics and recovery involved. I mean, the Scotland Leadville double is definitely ballsy maybe, but I don't think I can miss a worlds with the goal of doing snowshoe medal. So I think the experience will be great. And if I can get some points at those European races leading up to it, I think I can have a good enough start spot to get more points at worlds. So hopefully for marathon, it's not as important as XC to be like on the front row, but I think the first 5 rows would be crucial to being at the front of the race.
Yeah, can you tell me a little bit about that with call ups and points? So it's basically you get points to be on the I mean, that determines what row you're on when you start. And
yeah,
with mountain bike racing, it seems really important that you're near the front or you're never seeing the front.
XC, it's definitely more important. Like all the World Cups, essentially, you have a start loop sometimes, but normally it's within a few minutes you're in a single track where everybody's lined out. So if you're at the back one, you're never getting to the front because it's, imagine a crit, right, where they're taking up the whole road. Like there's no room to get through. For marathon racing, normally there's more of a like separation that happens, like a climb or something before it kind of closes down. But yeah, so different races, the different UCI races have different rankings. So UCI one day races have HC, C1, C2, C3, with HC being the most. And then stage racing has HC, C1, and C2. And then there's World Cups and World Championships. And the higher ranking the race, the more points you can get and the deeper it goes for places. And then essentially when you show up to a race, they go by points. So if you have 500 points and the other guy has 499, you start in front of them. If the guy has 501, then he starts in front of you. So it's just based on who registers. World Championships, you won't have everybody in the top 100. So you could be ranked 100th, but nobody else has a UCI ranking. You'll start first. Really all based on the field.
That's exciting stuff. And you've, I mean, in all of your races, you've done kind of both, right? Started at the front and then had to start near the back and claw your way up to the front. And
yeah, throughout my career, I definitely been in both scenarios. Worlds has always been a tricky one because it tends to be the only UCI marathon race I've done in the past. So I'll only have the 5 or so points from the marathon the year before. So I'll be like 100th out of 117. So not ideal, but that's why this year we'll do some of those World Cups. I also forgot Snowshoe has a World Cup this year, which I think is the test event. So I'll do that one as well. So there's the opportunity for some good points out there to get ready for Worlds.
And you raced Worlds in the USA jersey with one of our other local heroes, Danny Van Wagner, right? You kind of stayed in a group with him.
Yeah. No, we raced in Denmark together.
That's a fun connection.
Living the dad life.
Living that dad life. Yep. New baby.
Nice.
It's a super good crew. I feel like in Denmark, it was all the working class heroes. I'm sure they wouldn't mind me saying that. Like everybody was a part-time cyclist, I'd say. So I think that it was a cool vibe. Like I said, I feel a little imposter syndrome with the full-time guys, with the mechanic and all that. And I think with everybody else, there's kind of like this, we all look out for each other mentality. Like we were checking in. I think we had a group chat going. It was like, oh, do we need anybody in the feed zone? Like we have this covered. Oh, like, is this what the start is? So I don't know. Definitely more community than I've had in years past. So it was super fun.
Awesome.
Also, whole of a lifetime going into that finish.
I remember reading about that.
He literally pulled probably from like a K out to lead me out and gapped everybody else in our group. And I was like, there's no way I'm coming around you after that. Like, you're a fucking hero. Like it was so impressive because we were just like, I don't think we were fighting for anything crazy place wise. I think it was like 70th or 80th at the end of the day, but there's like a little section that we like tried to set me up for. I was like, oh, okay, I'll move to the front here, and then you can kind of just do it slowly through this single track, and I'll get a gap. And we tried that, and I like bobbled the pedal or whatever. So we kind of tried to set up for a sprint. And it was just, I think we were both content with whatever place we finished in the group, but it was fun to do some like USA team tactics. But
Fun.
yeah, when he stepped on the gas, it was like, all right, well, we are going.
He's so good at that. Stu, I don't know if you remember, Danny doesn't race a lot of roads, so he jumped in like a Cat 3 race with us at East Canyon last year, and all of a sudden it was like halfway through the race we see this guy way up in front just solo, and we were all like, who's that guy? Like, he's not in our group, right?
Yeah, he's catching.
We're like, no, yeah, he's not in our group. He must have fallen off the front group. And so like our group gets to the end and there's a sprint for the finish, and people think they won the race, and then they found out like second place. They're like, wait, what? Second place? Who took first? And Danny had finished like 6 minutes ahead of like everybody else.
That's fucking awesome.
That's fun. Hey, Alex, one thing that we usually do, we'd love to hear from you at least, because I know you, although our team, that is filled with, dads, weekend, I don't want to call us weekend warriors, Jace. Is that a bit of a dig on the team? But
no way, you just told them we're doing like 600 miles on Zwift this week.
I was about to say, not with those Strava totals. I mean,
when you look at a group of guys like us, what advice would you give just like a team of a local club, whether it's advice about balance or finding success or having fun or staying healthy? Like, what comes to mind when you're like, listen, this is what I've learned in this industry that I would share with a group of a team?
Compared to most, I have zero interest in grooming the next world champion, national champion, top junior. My biggest interest in cycling is to make lifelong cyclists. I think the biggest power of the bike, yeah, we love to compete, yeah, we love to race, but is the fact that you can stay so fit with your hobby. So I think that for me it comes down to like finding that fun, right? Like if you're burned out on intervals, like maybe do it on a mountain bike, or try to find like a KOM that's like the same length or something to motivate you to do it. Or it's not always about perfect training, it's about what you can make happen. And I think time management is always one of my biggest piece of advice to people who are trying to find time to ride, is respect that time like you would a meeting on your calendar or a doctor's appointment or anything else that is unmovable. I think a lot of people doing that, but you have to understand that riding a bike will probably do more for you than a doctor's appointment if you're doing it regularly. So I think really protecting that time. Like, I'm going to ride from 8 to 9 tomorrow. I'm busy. Like, I'm unavailable. And I think protecting that time, but also planning that time out ahead of time. And I think for me, that's been the biggest thing in terms of like, all right, today I have to work, I have to do gym, and I have to get 4 hours in. It's like, it's not always easy. And I'm definitely fortunate enough to have a job that's very individual contributor focused. So I can do work in the afternoon. But it's like, okay, if sun sets at 5 o'clock, I got to leave for my ride at 12:30, and I got to do gym before Europe wakes up. So it's like, okay, I'll be up at this time. I'm going to do an hour of gym. I'm going to be on my computer from here to here, because that's the crossover with Europe. I'm going to make pancakes here, or even pre-make them, whatever it is. And then I'm going to ride from 12:30 to 4:30. I'm going to get back by 5. I'm like, I can be back on my computer and finish this, and this, and then dinner's here. It's like, not every day is like that, but on those really time crunch days, you really got to just prioritize what you need to get done and like have fun doing it. I think
that's
one thing that I've wanted to do, and I'm sure with the community you have it, is I'd really love to get a group ride in my schedule. Like Keegan has the shootout, and I don't think we have like a quality group ride around here, but I think such a community around group rides. And if you can incorporate that into your training once a week and just, you know, chalk it up to a group ride. Like you don't convince yourself it's going to be zone 2 or zone 3 or sweet spot or whatever. It's like it kind of is what it is, and you can make it as hard as you want. But I don't know. I feel like even just being here for an hour with you two, I think the community you built is super important too, because I think it comes down to like what we were talking about with having a job is I enjoy the community at work. You know, like I do a lot of my training by myself. It's a lot of time in your own head, listen to audiobooks. And I think if you can combine those two, even if it's like Zwift and then everybody's on FaceTime, or Zwift and everybody's like on a group phone call or whatever it is on Zoom call, just to like have that community, I think is super important, because we like to be with people who are like-minded, you know? And I think that makes it so much more enjoyable. And like we all talk about bikes probably too much, but when you're in a group of people that talk about bikes too much, then let's just chat bikes.
Yeah, that's fun. Great advice. Yeah, no, I just had a dude on LinkedIn reach out to me. I don't even know how he's like, hey, I see you manage a bike team. Can we chat? And I'm like, I don't know how you know that. There's nothing on my LinkedIn that says that. But yes, happy to talk about my real job. But yeah, we can talk about that. Very cool. Anyway. All right, Jace, anything else?
No, that was super great advice. I think it's great to see a guy like you. For those of you that don't follow Alex on Instagram, he's a great follow, Alex Wild MTB. He does, is it every Monday that you answer questions, Alex, or is it Sunday? Or
it's Monday. Yeah, I need to get back on that.
Yeah.
I was on the kitchen floor dying, so I didn't need any questions.
Yeah. So every Monday, Alex is always looking for ways to kind of give back, and he just kind of told you how structured his day is and how much time he's putting in, but he's still willing to get on Instagram and be, you know, super active and answer anybody's questions. He does Q&As, and I actually connected to Alex on Instagram. But I don't even know what you posted, but I just reached out and we're like, hey, do you want to be on a podcast? And he popped right back and said, yeah, you bet. Let's, you know, figure out a time that works. So I think it's really awesome that there are people, ambassadors of the sport out there like you, always, you know, willing to sacrifice and give back a little bit.
Consider a sacrifice. I mean, honestly, if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be on social media. I mean,
cool.
My best, because obviously people pay me and sponsor me to ride bikes, but I just couldn't post pictures of bikes every day. Like I'm sure I'd have more followers and I'd get all these likes, but for me, it's not authentic. And I think it was when I started going on the Trainer Road podcast and we were answering listener questions and people would message me afterwards, like, oh, you said this, like I'm doing this kind of thing. And it really gave me a reason to be on social media. Like it felt like social media could be good per se. So I feel, yeah, I'm always looking for a way to, I guess, share my knowledge. And whether it's, do you wear underwear under bibs, or do you shave your legs, or, you know, like we've all been there. And I think having a resource and someone who's like not shying away from those questions, I guess, or, you know, thinking they're stupid or whatever it is, I think, I don't know, it makes another cyclist. And for me, if I can make someone's ride more enjoyable and make them a lifelong cyclist, then I can be on social media a little bit.
Good for you. You should do more puppy pictures or dog pictures.
Send him the saddle sore survey, Stu.
Yeah, well, our next podcast is Team Saddle Sore survey, so it's going to be exciting. Yeah,
it was like I think it was Team GB when the UCI had a restriction on saddle angle. They just kept sending them photos of riders' saddle sores.
I should include an upload photo on the survey, Jace, just a little.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
Nice. All right, Jace, we good? Alex, anything else? Anything else to add?
No.
Super grateful for you, man. It's gonna be really fun to watch you this season. I can't wait. Let's high five. We're gonna high five. Jace, you're doing Crusher, right?
Yeah.
Okay, man. That's where we'll see you first. You're gonna be in the zone though, so we'll just wave from you from far away.
Say hi.
See you at the finish
Not
line.
that guy.
Yeah, finish line, whatever, dude. Yeah, will you pull us back down the canyon when we get to the top of that stupid finish line?
You have to go down the canyon. I'm staying with your local celebrity Sid McGee, and he got us a place on the mountain. So
Up there?
Nice.
Oh.
yeah, so
That's
I don't
what
have to go down.
That's what I
Just
dread
in the
when,
morning when it's 5 degrees.
that's what I was dreading when we get to the top is the descent back to Beaver.
I feel like it
The
might be worse in
temperature
the
change is
morning.
pretty
I'm
incredible.
gonna be like in my puffy.
All right,
Cursing him
Alex.
for getting a house up there.
Hey, man, thanks so much. Grateful for you. Grateful for Specialized. And
Yeah, thanks for you reaching out. I love
okay,
this
man.
stuff.
Have a great season, dude.
Thank you.